Look at the size of that loss. I can't do much worse than that. Don't I look stupid? No excuses, I had a terrible night last week, and I gotta try to bounce back in this one. UFC Fight Night, Erceg versus Moreno. And let's get straight into the picks and predictions. First fight of the night comes in the lightweight division between Hubbard and MarQuel Mederos. Not much to say on this one. I think MarQuel is going to be able to win. The odds are not that great of value on it. I think he wins by decision. Moving on to the next one, Jamall Emmers set to face off against Gabriel, Miranda, and a lot of people are sleeping on Jamall Emmers after getting put out cold by Nate Landwehr, but he is a really good fighter. And Gabriel Miranda, yes, his loss against Morgan Chairez is probably looking real bad right now because of what happened to Chairez last week, but Chairez is still a really good fighter. Gabriel Miranda, I don't know if he's UFC level. I do know Jamall Emmers is though, and I think Jamall Emmers can do enough to get the job done. Whether he wins by KO or decision, I'm not too sure about it. He does have the power to put a guy like Miranda out, but he can also win a striking contest over 3 rounds. Back to the lightweights we go. Rafa Garcia set to face off against Vinc Pichel. 30 years old, and Rafa Garcia set to face off against the 42-year-old Vinc Pichel. I'm favoring the younger guy here. No value in terms of betting. Rafa did get finished by Grant Dawson, so I mean that's a terrible look in of itself, but Grant Dawson is a really good fighter, can beat most people in the division. Vinc Pichel is not really the same look. I think Rafa Garcia wins the decision. I do see the fight probably ending up close, so stay away from it in terms of betting. Next up, we go to the strawweight division where we have Julia Polastri set to face off against Lupita Godinez. And this fight really depends on which version of Lupita Godinez we see. Do we see a version that likes to just stand up for the entirety of the fight and try to win a striking battle, or do we see the version of her that wins most of her fights, where she goes to wrestling? Depends on that, to take fights down to the ground and grind out decision victories. I favor Lupita Godinez, but have questioning her fight IQ. If she wants to stand, it's going to be a closer fight than it needs to be, but I think Lupita gets the job done. Next up, we got Melquizael Costa set to face off against Christian Rodriguez. Disclaimer, every single one of C-Rod's fights I've gotten incorrectly. But last fight I got Costa incorrectly as well, so something's got to give. I think Costa gets the job done here. He is the underdog. That's some really good value, so going to be placing a bet on that. His fight against Andre Fili, he looked really good. And C-Rod against Bashi, yes, C-Rod did look really good here. The way he wins his fights usually is he survives a tough first round and grinds out a second and a third, but I don't think he gets to do that against Costa. His loss to Steve Garcia is looking quite well because Garcia's got that power and is running through the division. I really liked his fight against Andre Fili. He showed a lot of promise in that one. Even in the loss against Steve Garcia, he looked pretty good. I favor Costa in this one. I think his skill set is better, and I think C-Rod relies on his opponents having bad cardio. Next up, we go to Ateba. Gautier set to face off against Jose Medina, and I think Ateba gets this one done. There's no bet on this one because predicting him to win by KO against a guy like Medina is kind of a tall task. He can do it, but at the same time, Medina is known for having a chin on him. He can be the first to finish him, but he also can go to a decision victory. I think Ateba gets it done. So, moving on to the next one, we got Edgar Chairez set to face off against CJ Vergara. Got a bet on this one. I think Chairez wins inside the distance. Chairez, even though his record is 11-6, He has looked good in the UFC. CJ Vergara, when he gets hit hard enough, the dude starts to run, he starts to panic. Not really impressed by his skill set. I think Chairez manages to get the fight down to the ground and sink in a submission. Chairez is a very confident pick of mine. Next up, we got Ronaldo Rodriguez set to face off against Kevin Borjas. And I really favor Ronaldo Rodriguez in this fight. Yes, he can get beat by a lot of guys in the division, in my opinion, but I think he's the more skilled fighter in this one. Kevin Borjas has not really proven himself at the UFC level, so I think Ronaldo Rodriguez can beat him fairly convincingly in this one. Could even get a sub, but there's good enough value on Rodriguez. Straight bet. Next up, we got David Martinez set to face off against Saimon Oliveira. David Martinez, the brother of Melissa Martinez. Absolutely irrelevant, but I do think David Martinez can get the job done here. He should be able to showcase his skill set and get a fairly dominant victory. Next up, we got Raul Rosas Jr. set to face off against Vince Morales. And Vince Morales coming off a loss to Elijah Smith. And he looked good even in that loss. Coming up against a guy like Raul Rosas. Raul Rosas has been on a tear, but if he can negate his submission game and keep it a striking battle, you have a chance of winning. I do think Rosas is going to be able to take the back of Vince Morales for the majority of the fight, and if not get a submission, grind out enough to win on the scorecards. If it's a striking battle, it's going to be very, very close, but I see Rosas being able to implement a wrestling heavy and jiu-jitsu heavy game plan and get the job done here. There's no value on that play though. Now on to the 185ers, where we have Kelvin Gastelum set to face off against Joe Pyfer. I really favor Joe Pyfer on this one. Look at what Sean Brady did to Kelvin Gastelum. Sliced through him like butter. He's also a very, very close friend and training partner to Joe Pyfer. People are going to disagree because of what happened last week with Mick Parkin, but Mick Parkin sucks, and the UFC judges also kind of suck because I think Mick Parkin won, but anyways, Joe Pyfer is a much bigger fighter on the up in the UFC, and Kelvin Gastelum is kind of on his way out. Pick and play is Joe Pyfer to win by finish. Next up, we're going to the co-main event, and this should be a banger. We got Manuel Torres set to face off against Drew Dober. Drew has got a chin on him. And Manuel Torres, in his loss against Ignacio Bahamondes, he got dropped repeatedly and he got finished. Didn't look good in that one, but I do see him being able to bounce back in this one and get the dub. Drew Dober, he's kind of known for his solid chin and heavy, heavy hands. But I do see Manuel Torres managing to land at will. If needed, take the fight down to the ground and sink in a submission. Look how good Manuel Torres looked against Chris Duncan. That fight is aging so well because look at what Chris Duncan did last week. Drew Dober, he couldn't stop the takedowns of Renato Moicano, so I do see if Manuel Torres wants to get the fight down to the ground, he can. I think Manuel Torres is going to win, placing a bet on that as well. On to the main event, where we have Brandon Moreno set to face off against Steve Erceg. This is going to be a close fight in my opinion. I see it going the distance and it being 3 rounds to 2 to Brandon Moreno. The thing that I'm most confident in and the bet that I'm going to be placing on this fight is Brandon Moreno to land more significant strikes. I think his volume is going to be the difference maker in this one. Steve Erceg, he can land some hard shots on Moreno, but Moreno is really hard to finish. And I just see the judges going in favor of the heavy volume that Brandon Moreno is going to be throwing at Steve Erceg. I don't think he's going to be able to keep up with it, and Brandon Moreno gets the job done by decision. Now on to the ladder challenge, and it looked absolutely terrible last week with Morgan Charrier destroying my ladder challenge in a dominant loss to Nathaniel Wood. However, we're going to bounce back here in week number 1 where we turned $10 into $20. We got Edgar Chairez to beat CJ Vergara, and we got Ronaldo Rodriguez to beat Kevin Borjas. Can we get to week number 2 next week? We'll find out. Be sure to leave a like, comment what you think about the video down below, subscribe, follow me on TikTok, follow me on Twitter, support the channel on the Patreon, and I'll catch you in the next one. Until then, game time.